Hey everybody, Jane here, and today we are doing the movie versus book of The Murder on the Links. Now, The Murder on the Links is Agatha Christie's second Hercule Poirot mystery. In this book, we have Poirot going to France. He has been called there urgently by a Mr. Renaud, who believes his life is in danger. When Poirot arrives, Mr. Renaud has been murdered, and his wife, according to what he is told, was found tied up and gagged in their bedroom. She was found by the maid. She says that it was two Chileans who murdered her husband, and her husband's body was found out on the golf course that was being renovated. Because this is a book versus movie, there are going to be spoilers for both the book and the movie. So just know that before you progress into this video. The movie version I am reviewing is the one with David Suchet. My understanding is that David Suchet has done a movie version of all of the major Poirot novels. So my goal when I found that out was, as I read the different novels, to do a book versus movie. I've done two so far. I did The Mysterious Affair at Styles, and the book and movie were pretty similar. I did have some commentary about casting, which I think is going to continue with the whole series. So if you'd like my thoughts on the casting of Poirot and Hastings, you'll want to go back to my Mysterious Affair at Styles video. But otherwise, the Mysterious Affair at Styles was very similar, the book and the movie. On the other hand, also, I recently did a video on The Big Four, which is the fifth in the Hercule Poirot mystery series. And that one had a lot of deviations. It was almost not the same story by the end of it. There were a lot of same things in the timeline, but so much had been changed, and actually I ended up liking the movie version of The Big Four a little bit better. So where do I fall with Murder on the Links? Well, to be honest, kind of in the middle. There were some things I liked better about the book and some things that I liked better about the movie. This is an instance where the movie and book are quite different. So in the book version, as I said, Poirot receives a message from Monsieur Renaud saying, "You need to come here quickly. I believe my life is in danger." In the movie version, Hastings and Poirot are taking a vacation. They are staying in a hotel, and Hastings is wanting to golf. And they are approached by Monsieur Renaud, who says, "Hey, I recognize you as this famous detective. Can you come and talk to me? Because I believe my life is in danger and I'm worried for my safety." And of course, the next day he is found dead. In the book, he is found dead before Poirot and Hastings arrive. In the movie, Hastings is the one that gets to find his body. So you have a little bit different setup. Certainly the golf course plays as a setting a stronger role in the movie version than the book. The book version, yes, the character's murdered on the links, but it's not, the whole golf thing is kind of very much in the background, and I didn't think it was significant in the book. In the movie, it plays a much bigger part since Hastings and Poirot are staying at this golf resort, and Hastings does do some golfing while he's there. Another huge difference in these is in this book, there is a significant romance. While Hastings and Poirot are on the train traveling to France, Hastings meets a young woman he believes to be about 17 years old who identifies herself as Cinderella. Later, as he is going through the case, he meets her again, and she convinces him to let her see the dead body. And at that point, she steals the knife from the dead body, and we find out as the story progresses that she believed her sister had been involved with the murder of Monsieur Renaud. In the movie version, there is no sister. It is only one girl, and that is Isabella Duveen. And she is a cocktail singer, I guess you'd call it. I'm not really sure. She's a singer at the bar at the hotel. So Hastings does see her. She is older in this one, thank goodness. She's not the little 17-year-old acrobat. In this one, she's a 17-year-old acrobat. And in this one, she is a more mature woman who is a singer. And he does immediately develop feelings for her. She does ask him about the murder, but since they didn't separate her and her sister, she is the one in the movie version who had a motive to kill Monsieur Renaud. So in the book, it is the sister. The sister is Bella. And Bella, her motive is she is in love with Monsieur Renaud's son, Jack. In the movie, it is Isabella, our singer, who is in love with Jack, which is the same, but there is no sister. So I will say I didn't love the relationship as well, because Hastings does still pursue a relationship with Bella in this. In this one, he doesn't ever have a relationship with Bella because he likes her sister, the one that we call Cinderella. And in this one, he pursues a relationship with Bella, who got caught up in this whole murder trying to protect her boyfriend. So I think, or the man that she loved, who had dumped her. And I didn't really like that aspect of it. I thought, having her be that, she just tried to save her boyfriend by stealing this knife that she believed he used to murder his father. And then suddenly, at the end, her and Hastings are hooking up. That really bothered me, even though we do know that, Jack had told her he wasn't interested. I believe in the book, Jack and her get back together. But in the movie, they don't. Another big difference in these is is how much the information the consumer gets ahead of time. So in the book version, we are not privy to the fact that a very similar murder took place many years ago, and that Monsieur Renaud had actually committed murder with the help of another woman years and years ago. He is trying to fake his death in this one, but using much the same techniques. In the movie, we are given a flashback, like newsreel video of the coverage of that previous murder. So we know going ahead of time that Monsieur Renaud was involved in some funny business in somebody else's murder. Another thing to mention because of that is in the book, Jack, who is the one the girl stole the knife for, I do believe is Monsieur Renaud's actual biological son. Monsieur Renaud he fled after the murder, he married and had a child. In the movie, we're only 10 years out, and Monsieur Renaud's son, Jack, is actually his stepson. So he remarried a woman who already had a grown son. Also, I will say Jack is probably a bit older in the movie than in the book. I would put, in both cases, him a similar age to Hastings. However, again, a little bit younger than Hastings maybe in the movie. But in the book particularly, Jack seems very young. I would bet he was in his 20s. And I would assume, and I mentioned this again in the casting, my thoughts on casting from The Mysterious Affair at Styles, that Hastings acted like he was in his 20s in the books, much more than the movies. I think they had to cast him older because he will be spending a lot of his time in the later books as a grown adult, whereas in the book series we can meet him basically as a 20-year-old and move throughout his life. In the book version, Hastings does marry this girl Cinderella, and he didn't he had a date with her in this video, but I'm hoping that they drop the relationship instead of having them end up married. I didn't love the aspect of him getting married to this girl he barely knows, who's 17 and an acrobat. And it's just the romance, both the romances were weird. I didn't like the romance in either. They were both pretty bad for different reasons. I didn't like this because he barely knows her, but he's in love with her, and then at the end they get married, and it's just kind of weird. And also, going back to the youngerness of the characters in the book, everybody's very forgiving in the book of Hastings, like, showing off to the girl. So that's another reason I feel like he is portrayed in the books as in his 20s, because a 30 or 40-year-old man, which is what Hastings appeared, probably should know better than to be like, hey, I was trying to show off to a girl, so I went and brought her to where the body was, and oh no, she stole the murder weapon. You know, in the book, they're kind of like, oh, you know, you're just trying to show off to a girl, we get it. And I feel like you wouldn't have that reaction to a 40-year-old man who's trying to show off for a girl versus a 20-year-old kid who is trying to show off for a girl. Plus, Cinderella's 17, so if he's much older than 20, that's kind of gross. All right. Additionally, another age difference, there is a detective in both of these called Gerard, who is trying to also solve the mystery. And he believes he is better than Poirot. In the book, he is significantly younger. He considers himself the next generation of detectives who is using forensics, and his investigations highly involve forensics, whereas Poirot's are more psychological. And there's a lot of commentary on, oh, Poirot is old and he does it the old way, but in the movie version, him and, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right, Gerard, are about the same age, or they're portrayed to be. Both are older men. Both are probably in their 50s or 60s, and while Gerard's methods are different, it's not as obvious that he is very focused on the forensics of the case. He does bring up things about it, but we don't get as much of a, I would say, clear picture or contrast as Gerard, other than, you know, he thinks he's better than Poirot. Also, Gerard has in the movie, a pipe, and he and Poirot make a wager. In the book, the wager is for money. In the movie, it is Poirot has to slice off his mustache if Gerard solves the mystery before he does, and if he solves it, Gerard has to give him his signature pipe. In both, Poirot does win. In the book version, he uses the money to buy something to remind him of Gerard to put above his mantelpiece and gets a little gloaty. In this one, he lets Gerard keep his pipe, but is like, do not forget Poirot every time you must smoke it. So I did like that was a little bit different. I'm not sure which version I like better of the Gerard, because I felt like, on one hand, in the book, it made more sense that they were so different, that he was so focused on the forensics because he's this young police officer. And you know, he thinks that Poirot does everything in the dinosaur ways, and you know, but Poirot is an old dog who still has a lot of good tricks. So I did like that. But at the same time, it just was very much a different dynamic. The murders were very similar. The big difference with the murders, I would say, is that Hastings finds the body in the movie, and in the book it was found before Hastings and Poirot get there, of Michaud Renaud. There is a second body of a tramp who is found. In the book, the tramp is found out on the golf course also. In the movie, the tramp is found in the shed. So there's some location issues, and I didn't necessarily, I thought that in the book, having him found on the links in some ways made more sense because of what is gleaned from that discovery. But I didn't necessarily have a problem that the tramp was found in the shed. It just was kind of weird. I felt like both of these were strong versions of the story. They both had strengths and weaknesses, and I will say Murder on the Links is not my favorite Christie. I did give it a 3 out of 5, and I would give both of these versions a 3 out of 5. In fairness, David Suchet is amazing, and this cast does what they can with Christie's stories. This book was such a confusing mess that I thought they did a pretty good job of bringing it together. There were things that I would have liked to have seen differently. For instance, if we could have just cut out the romance entirely, that would have made me happy, because Hastings with Bella is not a lot different than, or not a lot better than Hastings with Cinderella. But I know that for the story of, her stealing the knife, he had to try to impress the girl, so I kind of get why they couldn't just take it out. But I didn't think that Hastings and Bella had to be reunited at the end of this. And I really hope that they don't pursue that line of the story of having Hastings marry Bella. I think that will make me very sad. I don't know how much she plays a role in later movies or books, so they might have to give Hastings a wife, I don't know. But I do know that in the Big Four, which is the next book that his wife is mentioned, she was not mentioned in the movie version. So I'm hoping we can just gloss over his relationship with Isabella and move on. I do feel like this is worth watching. It is a little bit different. The plot lines are pretty much the same. The characters are very similar, pretty much how I imagined them. Again, with some differences, but overall I felt okay with it. The biggest difference, I would say, other than setup, is the amount of importance the golf played and the scenery. So the setting was the biggest difference between the book and the movie version, and I think the movie version did the setting a little better. It really brought out the setting of on the links, on the golf course, whereas this focused more on the setting of France. So I guess they both did setting very differently, but everything else with some tweaks to the plot was pretty similar, minus the side character, Cinderella, who got completely removed from the movie. So that's my thoughts on the book versus movie, The Murder on the Links. It's interesting to see on the screen, though, where Hastings plays a sidekick role much more than the point of view character role. So I am enjoying my time with the movie, and I absolutely love David Suchet and the gentleman that plays Hastings. I don't know what his name is off the top of my head, but he's amazing too, and I'm really enjoying my time with this project. So I'm going to go ahead and close out. I will be continuing to do this with each consecutive Poirot I read and watch. So I'll let you know how the movies and the books compare, and if I have a preference. In this one, I think if I had to have a preference, the movie would probably be my preference because it was less of a cluster and the romance was not quite as awful, but neither of these really were up to my muster, and I didn't necessarily really significantly love one over the other. Alright guys, this is Jane. My social media is below. Please subscribe if you have not already. Also in that social media is links to my books. I am a romance novelist. I have books that you can try for free if you are in the Kindle Unlimited program. I also have books available basically everywhere. Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Smashwords, Audible, Amazon. Several of my books are in the Audible Romance package, so if you are a member of the Audible Romance package, you can listen to them for free. Of course, if you are an Audible member, you can use your credits towards my books. And if you are in the Kindle Unlimited program, as I said, you can read some of my books for free. So please check out my books if you enjoy romance. And this is Jane. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.